Right on. Ready to rock and roll? Yes. Welcome everybody to the Art of Letterpress, or the closing artist talk for Art of Letterpress. With us today we have not all, but a lot of the participating artists for this particular show. And what we can do is just kind of open discussion. Each artist will introduce themselves and what they do, and why they like to work in letterpress. Whatever else you feel like talking about letterpress. The philosophical ramifications of it, if you want. So, either way. So it's been a really fabulous show. We've been, it's been 6 months almost of the show, close to it. And it's really well received. There's a really strong letterpress community in the Bay Area. And we're totally hooked ourselves. So in-house, we're doing a lot of letterpress printing. I was totally thrilled that Ken Osborne, sitting over here, is here today. He donated our first letterpress, our Chandler and Price 1920s. And I kind of started this whole letterpress fever. And then Gene hooked us up with our number 3rd, and then we picked up a Vandercook down in LA as well. So yeah, we're in-house for printing. We're showing it on the walls. We're really excited about it. We're planning another show in maybe in a year or so, a year and a half. The Art of Letterpress Part 2, perhaps. So, and we'll dig deeper into the Bay Area letterpress community. So, with that, Rebecca Peters was the fabulous co-curator for this show, and she's been teaching all our workshops. And she's a full-time letterpress artist. And if you can introduce yourself and what you do.
Sure.
We'll do a little roundtable with that.
Rebecca Peters, as you said. I have a studio in West Oakland. It's called Rev Peters Press, and I do my own artwork, and then I print for other people and teach workshops there. And so I do lino cuts for artwork, and then sometimes little poetry broadsides. They're over there. And I've done some hand-set type, but not much in a while. And yeah, it was really fun putting this show together with Matt and Lena, and working with a lot of great artists. And some of the artists aren't necessarily letterpress printers, but they design it and then have other people print for them. And yeah, I feel like we got a really good variety of work here. And I like letterpress printing because sometimes it's a really fun way to sort of push me to put words to my images. And so since I started doing letterpress, I was more inspired to sort of create little poems to go with some of my images, and I've made some little books from them too. And it kind of went along with, I was doing intaglio printing before, and it was kind of a nice way to branch out into a different type of printing. And yeah, it's been fun to do stuff on a larger scale since I got the Vandercook. I've been trying that out, and it's fun.
Yeah, we have workshops too. We'll have some in the future that Red will be teaching. If you guys are interested as well, get in touch with us.
Yeah, come on in! Come on in!
College just started.
I'm 1/3 or 1-something of Studio Lorzig, and we're a collective of, I guess you could call us letterpress printers, but we have a show card sign press in our bedroom in the town of Canyon. And the littlest Lorzig, who's really part of the conceptual framework of our project, is at the track today, because it's like dollar bets, I guess. So she blew off the talk, but we're here. And I'm really just the labor. I carve the blocks. Canyon also comes up with a lot of ideas and kind of conceptualizes. What do you say?
I would.
So we started this project when my daughter got into painting the nesting dolls. She was sick, she painted them every day for a week, she made 15 of them, and we just thought they were great. And I carved one out of linoleum, the red one at the bottom, and when I printed it for her, she said, "Mom, this should say Occupy Canyon." And we live in this town with 200 people, so I thought that was really funny because there'd be no possibility of a physical occupation in Canyon. But conceptually, we like the idea of the occupation taking it part being located inside. So from there, actually a couple weeks later, I broke my leg, and I was hanging out in that room a lot with my leg up next to the press, and I was printing, and we just made all of this work, probably in an act of desperation, because Lena said, Jean, if you want to be in the Letterpress show, it better be straight letterpress. So,
Jean's an amazing printmaker. She does all forms of printmaking. She's all over the place. So this is Letterpress just kind of added to what she does. But we wanted to show that we somewhat focused on the art of Letterpress.
But for me, all I can say right now is I'm on this extreme educational learning curve because I don't know at all what Rebecca knows. We were over there talking like, what's it called when you put the stuff between the letters? Kerning? What is that? I didn't even know it existed when we printed that work. And now that we're in this show, yeah, you can tell because when you're looking at this other work, everyone is doing it but us. So like, next time, we're gonna do that thing. What's it called?
When you're
Where you space.
When you put the space, is it called kerning?
Well, kerning can just relate to like the different ways that you use the letters. That's what it is.
So we were kerning in a random way.
Well,
We were kerning
you
it
just
up.
weren't putting space. You don't have to put space in between the letters.
So it's
It's
Yeah,
totally.
we're not
totally
sure.
great.
So do you have anything to say?
so the Studio Lorzig, from my perspective, this is an interesting group project, and my take on it is really about it as a group more than as in terms of the formality of the work. And Jean is definitely the craftsperson and the labor, as she said. But and my daughter is really the prime conceiver of the content. And that content in this particular work came out of our interaction with the Occupy movement, her and I, and going to the different, to the protests and just thinking about those together and what that meant for our little community. So she then generated this particular little creature that was thinking about occupying. That could be a sort of placeholder for how something would be occupied. And then my contribution was far more limited and was really, I think it comes to the idea of what it means to work in this collective, and for us to be together and be making work that's not really about what each one of us would do, but it's work that a family would make together that's so fundamentally different than the work that any one of us would make. That it's not overly conceptual, it's really fundamentally about the three of us, and it comes to a totally different pace and a different type of content and a different level, because it's a 7-year-old and some parents, and really it's at that level. And for me conceptually, and the conceptual framework is, what is it like when you bring something to the level of totally different types of people? What kind of work could be made by them? And it really is. It's not a joke. She came up with that image, and then we have to go, oh, that's what you want to do.
Also,
Okay.
we need to give credit to our people in town showed up and helped us print this work. So there's, Gwen Winslow isn't here, but she helped print a lot of it. And Esperanza Searle sold it to our town because we started putting it up on trees and then it would disappear immediately. And we thought, oh, people must hate this. But they were stealing the prints because they thought they were cool. So then we just started selling the prints, and it's been kind of interesting to engage in our community in that way. So, should we move on?
Where do you live?
Canyon, which is between, we live in this town called Canyon. It's between Montclair and Moraga. It was part of the Back to the Land movement in the 60s, and there are 200 people there, and we live, it's not communally, but we don't have public water, or we don't have street lights. We have a post office and a school. We're pretty tight. We have a community garden. You guys should come and visit sometime. It's really beautiful.
And you have contra dances.
We have contra dances. The first Saturday of every month, there's a contra dance with live music.
Are you the town printer?
Actually, I need to be clear. I'm the best, this is what I've been told, I'm the best shithouse artist in Canyon because the prints are now in people's outhouses.
introduction, I'll offer some of the poetry that my work comes from. And then I'll talk more about the process, getting it onto the page like that. So some of those prints are actually snippets. Actually, all of those prints, except for the one that says Nourish on top, are snippets of longer pieces. And the four on the right side are all taken from this. I'm going to share a little bit of this which I wrote after the Occupy and Decolonize movements. Okay. We invoke Sylvia, alive and present in this space. We know maybe you were there. We honor whose streets, our streets, and we're tired of running. We memory, we music, we make new rhythm, we new horizon. We don't know ourselves. We are losing shape. We still hold the rage. We still make the table. We still water garden. We walk our dog and push the stroller. We decide with strangers and meet 1,000 new neighbors. We wait for friends we don't know coming out the jail door. We wait for our loves who can brave flashbangs and tear gas. We try to tuck ourselves to sleep. We don't want to miss it. We wait for this love to home from with the streets. We are still. We still whisper. We still wonder if there will be a place for us. We land in body. We occupy our own longing. We remember the isolation. We know exploitation. We hold its shape. We've learned to contain it. We unknow this body without it. We know we don't want it. We losing shore. We caress the tide. We caress this breath. We encourage you to feel the necessity of gender liberation for all people. We hold each other. We are changing. We are changed. We see more of our invisible selves. We long for each other, but we have not reached the human wearing police uniforms. We feel open. We still profit. We still own things, but we can taste it. We will listen. We will play. We will treasure each other. We will not out someone without consent. We will not know child sexual abuse. We all will unknow shame. We see and feel each other. We are remedy. We kill despair. We upheaval. We've raced our hearts. We've surged this spirit. We risk and cannot risk. And yet we risk again. We, 1946, we strike the clock. We honor First Nations. We unbind gender. We evict time body. We disable work. We free from capital and still, we the broken children who cry and wake and kiss and break. We return from break. We break the old patterns. We face the fear. We face the rain. We rain harder. We hear Egypt. We feel NYC. We know Atlanta. We take down the fences. We remake it beauty. We the worship. We the hour. We nourish this church where we fluent love and ease what fear. We hold each sacred. We hold this sacred because we are the ones we've been waiting for. We who see the police, we now are bigger. We don't afraid, and we take pleasure. We with broken backs, and we with broken hearts. We who lost our homes to banks, and bulldozers. We who did not recognize the settlers. We have no future, screams this toiling land body. We, the 99%, are not protesting. We reclaiming. We keep going. We are mourning. We, the laughter. We, in Juma. We are precious. We, breath. We, here. We occupy, unoccupied, decolonize 100% this whole body. So I wanted to offer that to you all to show the more breath and living dimension of the work that I do with Rebecca. So I spend most of my time writing, and then in the last year or two, I started working with Rebecca to translate that into letterpress form. Because I'm traditionally, I'll share it either through performance or send it out by email, through social media, and it's like very digital. And or I also print and mail to prisoners. But this is a way that has been good for me to be able to honor the poetry in another way, even when I'm doing snippets to highlight little mini offerings and to make it really tangible and tactile. And to further engage with and invite the audience to be in call and response with the work that I'm creating. So, yeah. And it's also, I think, like, I sometimes come to Rebecca with somewhat of an idea, maybe not quite an idea, and then it's in the sessions with Rebecca where it's like through our, brainstorming, it always comes to fruition. Yeah.
I'm Brian Crane, and this is my work there, the fish and the calendar, and the stuff on the pedestal. I started letterpress. I started making cards with different ways, and started with that. I'm doing taglio printing, so I was doing that, and it was so labor intensive. I was looking for some easier way, and I tried silkscreen, and that was like a little bit easier, and eventually found letterpress, and each, and I loved it from the beginning. I like the fact that when the pressing of the ink in the paper, I think makes the printed piece more of an object and less of just a piece of printing, or printed like a magazine piece. So it gives it that substance that I like. And I also like that before printing, I was doing graphic design, and when I was originally starting, printing was different then, and low-cost printing was like 2 or 3 colors that most companies could afford, and I was doing work for companies that could afford maybe, if they were lucky, 2 colors. And like a 4-color job was a luxury back then. Now it's like a cheap way to print. But when I came to letterpress, the fact that I could do as many colors as I want was kind of a luxury. And so like the calendar has, I think, 8 or 9 colors, and sometimes maybe a little like excessive, but for me it's just kind of fun, and when I'm designing I don't feel like limited by, I have to make this in 3 colors or 4 colors, or I can just kind of let it go. And it creates some challenges in the printing, multiple colors, because I wet my paper when I print, just so that the ink accepts the ink better. And when you have the problem of the paper, you have to print so many colors, it takes time, and if the paper is wet too long, it becomes moldy, so it's kind of a race between finishing and keeping the paper constantly wet. Once it dries, it just shrinks, and it causes a lot of other troubles. But so I like that about it, and I also, a lot of my work, I like mixing other techniques, and I like handwork a lot. So a lot of times I'll just use the letterpress printing in black as kind of like a outline, and then I'll either color it with watercolor or mix it in different ways, and still experiment in new ways. I'm trying to find like new ways, new mediums to bring in and mix together. There's like a lot of room for me to explore in that direction, I think. So I think I'm just beginning what I'm trying to do in that. But watercolor is real fun. It's when you printed the letterpress printing, if it's in black, it's like an outline, like a black outline of your image. And the watercolor, because I think it's because I print in oil-based ink, and also because it impresses into the paper, it makes a little moat, like a little groove around the, around the shapes, and the watercolor stays nicely in the, inside the lines, and it's not frustrating going all over like some kind of like free watercolor would be. So it's real nice. It's nice to watercolor and letterpress. I like that a lot. But I think mixing any other kind of medium is nice too. I do some intaglio also, and what piece I'm doing now is mixing. I'm using oil sticks, just because it's giving me the texture I like. But there's probably a lot of other things to try. So that's kind of where it's at for me. And I print on a Chandler & Price printing press, like they have back here, and it's like a challenging press. I think if people have money, they buy, maybe they get a Vandercook and they do nice additions on that. The Chandler & Price is less expensive, and it's more difficult, I think, to get like a good print out of it, just because of the way it prints on the paper in one big squash instead of rolled on off a roller. And so it's challenging, but you can also do a lot more with less effort. You can print 500 in an hour maybe, so that's nice too. And that's about it for me.
Brian, you both do your own work, and you also do commission work as well?
I've never done commission work, and I probably, it's so labor intensive that even like doing commercial work, even doing like wedding invitations, the amount of time it takes to actually do the printing, if it's not my own work, it's so expensive that I haven't found anyone willing to pay for it. So, and the commission work may be the same. If someone was willing to pay enough to have me actually do it, I probably would consider it. Although I'm like behind on my own projects, and so that's hard. But for me, it's just the amount of time it takes to create the plates and then make the plates and then do the printing. It's very labor intensive, and it's hard to afford, I think, for anybody. So, but when you're doing your own work, it's your own time, and so you just do it, and it's not, you don't really think about the cost.
And Brian, do you do handset type mainly?
No, I don't. I have some, and I've done it in the past when I was learning, but I've never done it for my own work. Just because I don't have all those resources, and it's so much easier to do on the computer and then just go to the plate. And also, like some people, they say handset type is much more beautiful, and I'm not sure I can tell the difference.
You can't tell the difference at all.
It just takes longer.
Yeah.
It takes more space.
Oh, yes, you can. Student of letterpress in college, we're doing handset type, and yes, you can tell the difference.
What do you feel the difference? Like,
It's in the spacing of the words. I've also done typography on InDesign program and kerning type class, so I do know a little bit. This isn't strictly just a visual person saying visually. There is a difference. I feel the difference is in the spacing of it. You can make it look exactly like handset type if you're willing to really kern each individual letters, and you're talking 0.001 increment on the computer. Then you'll get the look of it. With the handset type, you get a built-in spacing just because of the individual letters themselves. The font designer has taken that into consideration when they first designed the font. They worked out the spacing for each letter letter combination. And so that's built in already. So when you're putting in each individual letter in the same type family, and yes, you do get that built in space.
It would be fun to have a little contest before our next Letterpress show where there's one handset type in the show and print, and you have to.
Yeah. Or you can have like a pile of type specimens or printouts, and then go, okay, can you pick it up? So can you pick up what's really, whether it's as you said, sometimes you can't tell the difference because of the end result, unless you look at it with a magnifier and little calipers to figure out what's the difference.
Yeah, actually there's a gentleman up in Sonoma County, Pat Ray, you might have heard of him, but he uses the computer to generate, but whenever he does a book, he hand sets one page in the book, and he challenges people to try and figure out which page he hand sets, right? And he's done books that are over 100 pages long, and one page is hand set, so you have to figure it out. It's kind of fun.
I think the main challenge would be finding a font that totally matches.
Yes.
It would just look different.
Yes.
RVOGH. Oh, yeah.
No.
So I'm Ms. Berman, and happy to be part of this show. I am a graphic designer by training in college and also an old-time musician. So I think this letterpress is like old-time printing for me. Like I like just kind of the older feel of everything, and having a little bit of texture. And like you said, each piece is kind of its own thing. But just doing so many things and having a young child, I also don't have the time to set it all myself. So I've designed them all, but then I've worked with 3 different letterpress printers to print them for me. So I did them all on the computer, and the first one over there is the only one that's actually handset type. That was printed by Stumptown Printers in Portland. So I did the scratchboard art, and they made I don't know if it's called a metal plate. We were trying to figure out, it's some kind of a metal
plate.
Magnesium plate. And then I designed the poster on the computer, and he just tried to match it with type that he had in his shop. And the first one was a little bit funky, so we made some some adjustments and got it a little bit closer. But it definitely has a different feel than these ones do to me.
There's our comparison.
Yeah. Yeah, and I have to say, so these 3 I also set on the computer, and this is one printer, Peter Koch. Thank you. I forgot how to say his name. He's in Berkeley, and he does some beautiful printing. Anyways, he did this one for me. And what kind of plates are called? Polymer.
Yeah.
So these were the polymer plates, and they were broken up in different pieces, and he gave me the plates. But you can see, for example, these are all the same font, but I had to stretch them. If you had the actual typeface, it would always be the same dimension. So that's something else you can kind of tell that hands are kind of stretched. And then these 2 were printed by Berwinski Printers in Oakland, down by the airport. And he's a guy that's been in printing forever, and I think his dad was a shop owner before. Does anyone know? So he prints all the old wrestling posters, letterpress posters. I don't know what else to say at this point, but I just...
Did you seek out letterpress artists for this particular poster, or was it suggested that, this would be great letterpress? Or were you like, I need this to be letterpress?
Oh yeah, I really wanted it to be letterpress. I think this first one we realized it was a little more expensive because they actually hand set it, and so we realized if I could just set the whole thing on the computer and then have the plates made, it would be less, time consuming for the printer, would be a little less costly. When I studied graphic design, we learned how to set the really teeny tiny type, but it was so tedious. I was just like, I don't know, I couldn't see owning all the stuff to do it, and then just the time to do it. So now that I know more about, wood type, and I visited Hut Show Press at one point, and I just saw Amos's film the other night here, which was if you guys didn't get a chance to see it, it was so amazing. But it's, I would love to take Rebecca's classes and do some wood type and actually do some of the printing myself. So it's really fun.
Does the audience have any thoughts or questions or inspiration about what we got going on here? Questions?
Well, it's just amazing to me,
Yeah.
having grown up in a family who's in printing for 50 years, to see the interest in letterpress. And, you know, I mean, even when I was a kid, it wasn't too often that we'd bring out the handset stuff, you know, but every once in a while somebody would come in. I want something special. You can't do it on that. Oh, get out the handset, you know, put something special for them. So, I'm gratified to see that. It's great.
Actually, something I found interesting that Amos said in the film is that I think something that we all appreciate so much is feeling the impression in the paper. And he was saying way back when, like that was the sign of bad printing.
Yeah.
You didn't want that, and now no.
There's still people who think that.
Yeah.
Old school printers usually still try to avoid it.
It's one of the things we wanted to show with this particular curation was, you know, contemporary, more fun ways of doing letterpress, as well as, you know, more traditional methods of some really beautiful handset type. So, you know, it's all over the place. People are doing a lot of different things with it. Like Rebecca, you work full time as a commission
Yeah, I mean,
letterpress artist.
right now I'm only
Yeah.
working for other people. I haven't had time to do my own stuff.
Yeah. So
I know in the
it's,
summer I'll have more time to do.
it's one of those crafts, I think, that it's almost like being a ceramic artist, where you could make pottery and sell pottery, but also do your own art. Well, or sculpture. Letterpress seems to be in the same vein, which is kind of fun.
There's another part that, this is kind of new to me, but there's also this collaboration in terms of the people making this, and not this particular font, but this other font was we got was made just made by a craftsperson in Wisconsin, I think, or where?
Upstate New York. We have a set of Helvetica, and we have the Gothic that they have back here, and we got a little bored with it, and so I commissioned a set of wood type to be made, and so there's been a resurgence of people actually making new type because it's so expensive to buy. If you're looking for wood type now, we're all battling. Like, I keep wanting to know what your eBay name is because I know that, like, we might be fighting over the same thing. Yeah, seriously. And so I discovered it's actually cheaper to have virgin wood type made than to buy it on eBay, but
yeah, so we just got this, and it is beautiful.
it came after the show, though. That's the problem.
Yeah.
It came after we printed this show.
And plus it's hard to find a full set sometimes too. You'll find ones like, oh, it's everything except an E.
But didn't
You don't have a K.
Didn't he like make some extra things or something? Didn't he do like?
He offered me. I told him I was kind of hassling him because it didn't come, and I had a broken leg, and I really wanted to print with it, and so I would email him like, "How's it going?" And he said, "Tell me what letters you want, and I'll make them for you." And
What letters do you need for this piece?
Yeah, and I was like, "Oh no! I want the whole box. I don't want to."
But that was so sweet. That it was like such a.
It's a
There's
guy
the
in
guy
his
making
garage.
Wow, cool.
Yeah.
That was kind of cool.
Was he hand carving each one?
He
or
has
is
a
it-
pantograph, so he uses, supposedly he bought a pantograph from the Hamilton Wood Type Company in
And
Wisconsin,
you study with them.
and I'm from Wisconsin, and so I was pretty excited by that, but when I got the box, when you open it up, the letters are really different. You know, it's like, it's a visible font, but you can see that, like, the inside of the Q is a little bit higher, you know, on this one. So there's a lot of, it's very handmade. And actually, do you have that A you made?
The what?
Because Matt made a piece of wood type.
Oh, yeah.
Well, he made that, but then he made a piece of wood type with birch, and it's super handmade.
Yeah.
And we're talking about, like,
Plain.
I love to carve, so, like, I could clean that stuff for you. if you
Sure.
like.
No, we're playing, definitely. We have a wood shop here, and we're into letterpress, so having a wood shop on hand is really fun because we can actually play around with, as long as it's type high, if it's a machine, you can print it. So we're playing and experimenting.
We need to make some ridiculous fonts, like some graffiti letter fonts.
Yeah, that's
or
what-
like,
exactly.
like stuff that no letterpress artist would ever want.
but we would.
Does he have a list of fonts available?
Yeah, go to virginwoodtype.com, and the guy's really, I can tell you, he was great to deal with, and I felt like it was really affordable. And mainly he has a lot of old-time fonts. Like the font that I got was from 1849, and it's called Mansard Extra Bold, and it's based on the mansard roof. And I got it, and I was all excited, and this guy was like, no, it's too cowboy.
Just like that.
Yeah.
It's just
If you could just find a powerful laser, you can burn anything that you would have in the memory on your Mac. They burn any artwork that you want on the ends of wine barrels very, very easily right now. It's certainly enough relief that you could use it to press with.
Yeah. Yeah, people are playing around with it as well. I don't think anybody's really, I mean, this guy you've worked with is trying to produce it. It sounds like he's struggling maybe a little bit. So I think if somebody could crank it out efficiently and cleanly.
Come on, how much demand is there for like this, you know, he seems to be, I hit him at like December, middle of December, and I had it by, when did this show open? Like the week before the show opened, I had it. So it wasn't terrible, but it was like, it was the holiday season for him.
So he just had holiday orders.
Yeah, don't slander Virgin.
Is this the guy, because I saw the previous film that you showed about the Hamilton.
Oh, the typeface?
And the guy, there was the older man that was, they said, oh, this art is going to be gone, creating these typefaces. And there was one guy that was learning from him.
Maybe, I don't know, his name's Bill.
Yeah.
I hope there's more people than that. Oh my gosh, is it really gone?
We could imagine people doing 3D printing to make antique typeface.
I think the worst part of it is when you go to look for this type and you see that people are making handbags out of it or like these belts and decorator stuff, and it just makes you crazy.
Yeah, because they're breaking up.
You can't find it.
Yeah, you're
It's all over Etsy.
One of the things that's really fun, I enjoy as an artist working with letterpress is it's limited. Like if you're an artist or you're a painter, you have a blank canvas, you can do anything you want, and it's a little daunting. Letterpress, you're like, I've got these letters, and it all has to fit in this box. So I think I find it very kind of relieving that way, fun. And we've had some really fun workshops where people can come in and set their own hand type, and you don't necessarily have to be an artist. You just play around and you go, that looks good there, and this looks good there.
Yeah, the limitations are totally.
Limitations
push
are
you to be
relieving.
creative.
Yeah, exactly. So you're
You have to find a different way to do it.
especially if you don't always have complete sets of type because it's hard to come by. So you're like, well, that A doesn't fit, so let's try this A. It's fun. The limitations are enjoyable.
The images back there that are mostly image, not type, how does one get that? I don't know anything about the process.
Can I answer that? He takes like either like a deco paint marker, like something enamel or something really opaque, and you can either just draw. You could draw on paper and get it, but if he shoots it photographically onto a polymer plate and then washes it out. And you guys are going to have workshops, right?
Yeah, we had a photopolymer plate, like in-house workshop on that.
It's really a great process because it's like very very handmade, and it's like you're making an object and then you ink it up and print it. And
it's kind of like making silk screens. I don't think it's a similar photo etching process. You're working off of an existing one.
It's the same place that we used for this, so you could make type or art.
It's the same, right?
Same
Rebecca,
thing.
do you know how this was done? Is this an etching?
This is hand set type, and this is etch and etching. But I think actually it was probably the plate itself was carved to be shaped this way. I think it was aluminum, and so it's easy to just sort of like cut out the shape, and then it was probably just a dry point print, and then it's tonally white. So it means that the way it's sort of shaded here is done in the wiping when you leave the ink on the surface to kind of create it. So each time you print it, you can print it a little differently.
And she's the daughter of a really famous Bay Area printer, so she's
Hey,
got like
yeah.
the mojo.
Yeah.
She
there.
grew up in the print
shop.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Her mom is an amazing master printer.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
beautiful. Well, if there's no more thoughts or ideas, you guys feel free to hang out and drink tea and coffee and wander around the studios if you'd like to hang out with the presses or enjoy the show somewhere. And the artists are going to be hanging around too if you want to pick their brain.